Well, hello everyone. My name is Joe Stewart, and today I'll introduce you to Contract Lifecycle Management, our solution for creating and managing contracts on the extended ECM platform. I'll quickly introduce our firm AnswerModules, then our digital transformation enabler module suite, and then demonstrate our Contract Lifecycle Management solution. Okay, so who is AnswerModules? Well, we're a product company delivering software that enhances extended ECM. We've got more than 250,000 users spanning hundreds of customers and partners across the globe in all industries. We're a multi-platinum solution extension partner, a multi-year partner of the year, and we were the first to be certified for the OpenText cloud. We're actively helping customers shift to the OpenText cloud. What is Module Suite? Well, Module Suite is a digital transformation enabler and accelerator for extended ECM. Customers use Module Suite to build applications for their business users on extended ECM. And these are screenshots from applications built with Module Suite, just to give you a sense of what customers deploy. What is Contract Lifecycle Management? CLM is a ready-to-use solution to manage all of your contracts, from creation to negotiation, to execution, to renewal, to archival. It can be easily personalized to address your business requirements. CLM was built using Module Suite and is our first vertical product. In today's demo, we'll have two scenarios. In the first, a business user, in this case a vendor relations representative, needs to create a contract as part of the vendor onboarding process. In the second scenario, a legal professional, like an attorney or a paralegal user, in this case, a general counsel attorney, needs to revise standard contract clauses to address recent regulation changes. Two very different users doing very different tasks. You might think of the legal professional user as a power user, one who makes changes that affect general users. For our first scenario, our vendor relations representative needs to create a new non-disclosure agreement as part of the vendor onboarding process. The entire process is summarized by this graphic, from selecting a template to executing a contract. In the first step, selecting a template, our vendor relations representative picks from a library of pre-approved standard contracts. These contract templates are comprised of sequence clauses that were created and are managed by our power user, the general counsel attorney. These are the standard approved agreements that this business user is authorized to use in the onboard a new vendor business process. These controlled templates enable authorized business users to quickly create draft agreements, knowing that they conform to corporate standards. After selecting the appropriate template, our vendor relations rep is presented with a wizard that gathers the high-level information needed to associate the agreement to the specific vendor that's being onboarded. This information will be used to name the agreement and will also be merged into placeholders in the template. In some cases, this information may be managed in other applications like a CRM, and in other cases, it may be data that our representative needs to key in. Enforcing standard agreement naming and metadata makes it easy to find agreements in the future and to manage other agreement-related activities like renewals. Once our vendor relations representative has started the new contract process to create a draft, agreement-specific information will be gathered. This is where common terms that vary from one agreement to the next are captured. This information is then merged into the draft using placeholders, combining the template, which defines the sequence of clauses and locations of placeholders, with the information gathered by the wizard. CLM generates a draft contract in Word format. At this point, our business user has created a draft tailored with information about this vendor, and it's a contract that fully conforms to corporate standards. So let's do it. Let's be a vendor relations representative and generate a draft non-disclosure agreement. Fabio, over to you.
Thank you, Joe. So in this part of the demo, we're going to show what is probably the most important capability in our contract lifecycle management application. And that's obviously the capability to create and manage a new contract. So we'll be impersonating a person in our company that has been tasked with the creation of a new non-disclosure agreement with one of our business partners. The starting point for this task will be to access the CLM main dashboard, which you're seeing on the screen right now. This is the primary entry point to access all of the different capabilities of the platform. So ranging from the current contracts to other administration capabilities and the reporting capabilities. Right now, I'm looking at all of the contracts that I've been working on lately, and which are mainly the ones that I have access to. As you can notice, these objects are managed using workspaces. So we're using standard object type within the system that has a lot of very interesting capabilities. We'll see how we will use all of the role-based capabilities, the possibility to associate metadata and classifications, and that will be an interesting way of tailoring the application to one's actual needs. From here, we can start with our task, which we'll do by clicking on the new contract button. What is coming up is our guided wizard for the creation of the contract. So it will ask us for a few details about how to start the contract creation. Probably the most important piece of information we're asked to provide here is what type of template we're creating. So that's the first field. And the list that we're seeing right now on screen includes all of the pre-built contract templates that have been created, validated, and approved for usage inside our company by our legal counsel. So I'll check if our non-disclosure agreement is in here. I'll pick that contract, and I will move on and provide a little bit more of information. So let's say this is an OpenText NDA for 2022. I'll provide the information related to the parties in this contract. So this will be used to dynamically populate a lot of the fields inside our document. I'll look up and let's say we'll use AnswerModules of the first party and OpenText as the counterpart. Let me do a little bit of give you a little bit more information about this capability. So right now, what we're doing here is we are extracting this information from the system itself. So each entity that we see here is actually represented as another business workspace in the system. So we are pulling out the information from other business workspaces. Right now, you're seeing the OpenText business workspace, and specifically, we'll be pulling out the information from this category and use it to populate our contract. This is obviously one of the many different ways, and it gives you an idea of the advantage of having an open platform like this built on extended ECM. So we'll be free to change this logic to pull the information not from business workspaces, but maybe from an external database or from an integrated CRM system or from SAP or whatever other system or data source that we can integrate with our application. So we'll go on and just type in a couple additional details that we need to start the contract. So this is pretty much standard stuff that you will find on any legal agreement. So let's say we set the termination date to February. We add a termination notice period, and we ask the system to start with the creation. So right now, behind the scenes, the system is using the information. It's crunching all the information we provided to actually create our new workspace. In the workspace, you have, as we were anticipating earlier, you'll have the possibility of configuring different roles that will be able to access different capabilities in the application. There's a set of default roles that have been built in here. For example, the contract editor or a legal advisor, other information that is totally customizable and that can be automatically populated based on different data sources. In here, probably the most important information you'll find is in the second tab, in the contract tab. Here you will find the structure of the current contract as it has been created based on the existing contract template. So contract template is essentially a collection of clauses. All of these clauses have been added to the template we're working on. So here I can review the contract as a whole. I can review the different clauses that have been added in the system. And I can possibly edit each of these clauses separately, but we'll leave that for a second part of the demo when we'll discuss the revisions and approval of the changes. One thing that you might have noticed here is that the information that we've set in earlier, typed in the previous wizard form, has been automatically transferred to the template. So depending on the type of template that we're working in, the system will extract, based on the clauses, all the different dynamic placeholders that we are required to fill in. Some of these can be automatically filled in by the initial step. Okay, so for example, the different parties and the effective dates and the termination date of the contract. Other information can be provided by the user at this point in time. Once the contract is ready to be shared, we'll be ready to move on with the next phase. So we will probably at this stage maybe generate draft of the contract and share it with a different party. And this can be done in different ways. It could be the system automatically generating an email and sending it over, or I could manually grab a draft of the current document in Word format, which is one of probably the preferred format to exchange and negotiate a contract with a counterparty. And the system is automatically capable of grabbing all of the clauses, so the structure of the template, of merging it inside a Word document, including any revisions and comments and any markup that has been added to the document, and generating a document that looks like this. All of the actual look and feel of the document, so the styling of the different sections, can be customized based on templates. So you could bring your own corporate template and have all the contracts automatically look like that. So at this point, I'll stop here. I'll give the word back to Joe so we can see what are the likely next steps in this process.
Well, thanks, Fabio. Pretty easy, huh? So now let's make it a bit more complicated and pretend that our vendor has asked for changes to our agreement. To address that agreement, we'll make these changes at the clause level to both limit possible changes to our standard agreement and to reduce the review work to be performed by the general counsel. This is a common real-world requirement and is easily addressed by our CLM solution. Once the agreed-to changes are made to the clauses, we move on to approving the revised agreement. CLM automates the review and approval process with workflow, including automated out-of-office rerouting, reminders, escalation, and complete audit history. And there can be many approval workflows, perhaps organized by jurisdiction, agreement type, value of the agreement. So high-value agreements might have additional reviewers. Even the scale of deviation from the standard agreement can be used to select an approval process. All of this results in shorter time to contract execution. So let's make some language changes and then route the negotiated agreement for internal review and approval. Over to you, Fabio.
Thank you, Joe. So in this part of the demo, we're going to give a closer look at a different phase of the contract's own life cycle. We're going to focus more on the approval and negotiation and editing of the contract clauses. Keep in mind that we're still working inside the extended ECM platform. So the system gives us a lot of different ways of interacting with the users and gathering feedback and collaborating on tasks. So we have workflows, we have tasks, we have the possibility of tracking changes on documents through metadata and status and so on. In this specific case, we'll show an example of how we can manage the approval of a contract using standard extended ECM workflows. So that's what we have associated to this specific contract type. The starting point is the contract that we've created earlier. So we will assume that the counterparty we've shared the contract with came back to us with some comments related to, actually one little comment related to one of the clauses. The clause is the terms of confidentiality, and they notice that there is a typo in the confidential information clause that is not correctly specifying what the period refers to, if it's in months or years. So what we'll do is we will edit the contract and prepare it to be sent back. But this operation in our company requires us to go through an approval process. And most importantly, we have to make the changes on the single clause so that the system will be able to track any custom wording in any of the clauses. And so our compliance department will be able to run analysis on all the contract repository and track what clauses have been changed over time and what contracts by which people. So we'll locate the terms of confidentiality in our clauses list. And here we actually see the clause in isolation. So that's all the wording in the clause we have. We can see the placeholders that have been used for the dynamic sections of the clause. And we are allowed to edit this clause given our permissions on the specific contract. So what we're going to do is we will activate the track changes. So any review, any markup will be visible to the person that will have to approve. And we'll move on and make our change. So the term is actually months. So we will get rid of the years part here. And we will move on and save this clause. So at this point, the contract includes different wording for that clause. We can see that since revisions are active, we can see the customized wording in here. Downloading a new draft would actually include that revised wording. So we can actually see that in the document should we decide to download it. Okay. And from this point, before actually sharing the document again with our counterparty, what we'll do is we will trigger an approval process. In order to do that, we have isolated the approval capabilities in a separate view. So by accessing this view, I'll see the current status of the contract in terms of tracked changes, and I'll be given the possibility to start a new approval workflow. The workflows that I'm allowed to select here are the ones that have been made available in this specific system. So this is absolutely customizable. Depending on what is the actual process inside a company, these can be created to include whatever number of approval steps and whatever number of termination actions. So once the workflow is completed, we can use the information, the contract, and maybe automatically send it out, notify people, or simply archive it in the system. These workflows are also out of the box. They're using the roles on the contract workspace to assign the different steps of the workflow. So we'll see what that means in a moment. I'll add a remark. So reviewed the term of confidentiality clause. It's probably typo. And I will start the approval workflow. So the system has actually triggered a new workflow, and the workflow is automatically bound to our contract workspace. So what I can see here is the current task is assigned to someone in the legal role in this workspace, and there's currently no one in there. So what I'll do is I will cheat in this case, since I'm the administrator of the application. I will head to the team tab, and I will add myself to that specific role so that I'll be able to manage the step. So I'll add myself to the legal role and save here, and just head back to our contract. So if I open the approval tab, once again, you see that things are changed now because I am in the group. So I can both see the step. So since I am in that group, I will be able to access the workflow task by any standard means. So I'll be able to see the task in, for example, an assignments tab in the Smart UI. Or for ease, it has been also added directly in this interface. So from here, I can directly approve the change. I can also actually, since I'm also owner of this contract, I will go in here and actually approve the change itself. So I'll open the clause, and I will open it, edit, and I will actually accept the change here and save the clause. So at this point, we have a clean contract with all changes approved. I'll head back here, and I will click on the approval action. So behind the scenes, the workflow has been automatically sent on my click, and the contract workspace has been updated. As a matter of fact, as the last step of this workflow, the final version of the document has been generated by the workflow, and it has been added to a specific location in the workspace itself. So we have a contract folder in here, and the document that we generated has been stored in this folder. From here, I can now move on to the next steps, which can, once again, depend on what the process looks like for your company or for your department. One typical thing that one can do at this point is to start a signing process. It could be a digital signing process that can be triggered directly from the document, and the system in that case will automatically manage the creation of a signing envelope on the cloud, and then will automatically sync back the signed document to the workspace once the process is complete.
Well, thanks, Fabio. Now that we've secured internal approval on our agreement, it's time for execution. CLM supports a variety of digital signature technologies, including Core Signature and DocuSign, and other digital signature solutions can be integrated, such as Adobe's Acrobat Sign. Customers typically automate the digital signature portion of the process by automatically kicking off the execution workflow at the end of the approval workflow. I'm sure you're familiar with digital signature, so let's move on. In our second scenario, we'll switch hats from vendor relations representative to attorney and do some power user work. We've introduced clauses, placeholders, templates, and agreements. Let's now work directly with these as a power user. So let's create some new clauses, some new clause variations, a template, and some forms. And we'll give you a peek at some of the other management tools. So first up are clauses. And these are the building blocks of templates and agreements. So each is its own object, and each can be used in many templates. This enables you to have precise control over language in your agreements and to easily reuse approved standard language. Clauses can also have variations. We use variations to easily address common changes that are predictable. These include changes due to jurisdictions, type of contract, the language used in the agreement, such as English and French, even common acceptable terms. You might create a terms clause with a default net 30 clause, but with variations for net 60 and net 90. So variations make it easier to automate real-world requirements. Next up are templates, and templates are ordered sequences of clauses. So from your collection of standard approved clauses with their pre-approved variations, you can quickly create new standard templates by adding and ordering, sequencing your clauses. This makes it easy to quickly standardize common agreements, making it available to business users. Now remember that we automatically insert information into our agreements. We use placeholders to indicate where the information will be inserted. Those placeholders need to be populated with information, and we do that using forms. We gather information for our placeholders at two major points. First, when we start a new agreement, that information helps us name the agreement. And second, when we gather agreement-specific information. Using forms, we can easily guide business users through creating agreements. So let's have our power user do some work. Over to you, Fabio.
So we have seen earlier how we could quickly start the creation of a new contract from a set of pre-existing templates. What we'll see right now is more the administration side of things. So how the contract templates and the corresponding library of clauses can be managed by a legal counsel within the organization. So let's show the case in which we have to build a new clause. So let's say we notice that our NDA agreement does not include a governing law clause. So we can proceed to create that. The first step is to collect the very basic information. So we'll provide the name of the clause. We can provide an optional description, and we can provide, most importantly, some classifications that will help us search and reuse the clause for different templates. So in this case, let's just pick global classification, and let's move on to the next step. As it happened for the contracts, the system will create a workspace, so we can store, for example, documentation regarding the specific guidelines and laws for which this clause is required. But most importantly, we can manage the actual wording of the clause itself. We can actually manage different variations for each clause. So in this case, we'll create standard variation. Let's call it just standard. We'll set this as standard clause for standard variation for this clause, and we can start typing whatever we want in our in the body of the clause. I'll just take some pre-built wording here. I can use the editor to format it in a way that will be compatible with the rest of the contracts. Once again, this can be then merged with pre-existing templates to have a different styling in the final documents. And here at this point, I'm actually ready to go. So if I were to use this clause in a template, I could do it at this point. But there's something that I have to fix. So in this clause, I have a portion that is probably will require a dynamic field. So I will get rid of this section, and I will replace it with a placeholder. So I don't have, let me check if I have a governing law country. No, I don't have it in here. So I'll create a brand new placeholder, law country, in my system. Let's just repeat this country, and we'll add it as a text field and just create it and select it. So this will automatically create a dynamic field that will be included in any contract and will be required in any contract using this specific clause. So I'll save this once again. A new version has been added. We can see that it's a standard clause. I don't want to add further languages, and I can head back to my global dashboard. At this point, I will go on the contract template section, and I'll do the last step, which is to open the contract I want to change. I will open the clauses section of this contract. I will edit the existing clauses. I will locate my governing law, new clause that is not currently included. I'll review that this is the wording that I want to use, and I'll select it so that I can go back. I can review the position of this clause in my contract. Let's say I want to put it more at the very beginning, so I can see it directly in the preview. And at this point, I can save a new draft version of this contract template, which can be approved and made available for our employees to use, build new contracts.
Well, thanks, Fabio. We've covered a lot of ground from a business user creating, revising, and executing a standard agreement to a power user creating new clauses, variations, templates, and forms. We've got a bit more to go, starting with workflows. CLM supports a variety of approval workflows, from simple single reviewer workflows to more complex multi-reviewer workflows. These workflows reduce the time it takes to reach the execution phase of the lifecycle, and they enforce your corporate policies, reducing legal risk. But wait, there's more. Management tools. CLM includes renewal management, obligations management, archiving, monitoring, and reporting. You may be wondering what obligation management refers to. So at the clause level, you can designate obligations to be monitored and managed. Obligations can be things that your firm is required to do and things your counterparty is required to do, such as maintaining specified insurance coverage. With CLM, you can automatically track those obligations. Together, these tools provide your general counsel with enterprise-wide control of legal risk. To wrap up, we've shown our vertical application Contract Lifecycle Management, which is a ready-to-use contract solution. It provides easy standardization, easy automation, and easy tailoring, enabling business users and power users alike to manage your contracts. Thank you for attending our breakout session. If you have any questions or would like to see more, please visit us at pod 113, and thanks again for joining us.